The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to another Keefer and Kurre. A Keefer on the left side, Kurre on the right side. Two just outstanding, smart, good-looking guys who just pick stuff to talk about every single week.
Great Americans.
And I was going to talk about, because when we do this show, we're doing this on the July 2nd. We can talk about the 4th of July, which is coming up on Thursday. And no matter when you're listening to this thing, you can listen to it. And of course, it's available forever on podcast. But we love talking about women. We love talking about relationships. We're both divorced. We're both single right now. We both have children. And so we know a lot about life when it comes to that. But I did want to mention the story, which I think is really, it was just a head scratcher, but it's hilarious. It's kind of one of the stories where I'm kind of pulled each way. But this guy, Kyle Filipowski, he, football or basketball player, was in the NBA draft just last week. He's a 7-footer. He averaged 16 points, 8 boards a ball game last year. Certainly supposed to be a top 20 pick. Well, he ends up falling throughout the top 20, and the next thing you know, he's back in the green room, and it starts to turn into an Aaron Rodgers thing, man. I mean, like,
boy,
they got the cameras on him, and every time the phone rings, it's not his phone, and so he goes all the way down. In the span of 24 hours, Filipowski went from being mocked as high as the early teens to falling out of the first round altogether, earning the unfortunate reward of turning up to the NBA draft green room for likely first-round draft picks, then waiting all night long without hearing his name called, without getting picked again until he went day 2 to the Utah Jazz, selecting him 32nd overall. Obviously, something got out because everybody had him going in the first round. Not one person had him going outside day 1. So they're like, what's going on? So, Jonathan Giovanni from the Low Post podcast wrote, NBA teams are talking about the fact that they had questions about his girlfriend being so much older than him. Why was he estranged from his family because of this whole situation? It's a very, very odd situation. I personally don't understand why it would cause him to drop like this into the second round. Caitlin Hutchinson is his girlfriend.
Okay.
They got engaged back on April 18th. And as of right now, Filipowski is 20 and his fiance is 25. Not earth-shattering, not something, a revelation that certainly would make you take a guy out of the second round just because he's got a girlfriend that's 5 years older than him. Now you can certainly make the argument that if he's 20, there, depending on how long they dated, there probably had to be a time when he was a minor and she was a major, if you will. She was probably 20.
I like that.
She was 21. And I mean, do the math. I mean, if they started dating when she was 22, he was 17. Okay.
Happens with teachers and students all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Normally that would not be enough to tank a draft stock. But then there were some other interesting pieces of this puzzle that came out. We mentioned Caitlin is an Alabama native. A little concrete information on who exactly Filipowski's fiance is. Most information can be gleaned from past social media posts. So they went to her social media page and found a Facebook post from December 23rd, 2018, showing Hutchinson graduating from the University of Alabama. Okay, so what do you usually, when you graduate from college, 22, 23?
Yeah. So that was 7 years ago. She was only 18.
Well, that's what. That's what they want you to believe. She's either smart. She's either smart.
So she might not be 25.
Exactly.
I'm learning a lot here.
Go with me here, Kip. Go with me.
Okay, I'm on board. You go ahead, engineer.
I'll do the math for you. Another post.
Okay, thanks. I need help.
Another post, Hutchinson's tagged in from an Instagram showing her in a high school graduation gown, in May of 2015. So just to do the math, that would be 9 years ago. If she's 18 plus 9 is 27 or 28. And if she's 27 or 28 and he is 20, then we may have an issue. Again, it's not really an issue according to this NBA draft stock guy. As we've established, a 20-year-old dating someone in their late 20s might be a little odd, but not exactly a major red flag. As people come through social media on Thursday morning, a photo of Filipowski and Hutchinson from his high school prom began catching everyone's eye. It shows the couple together and is dated May 21st, 2022.
Okay.
Filipowski was born November of 2003. At the time of this photo, he was 17, and Hutchinson was probably 26. And by the way, she's a looker. And again, he's 7 foot, so he just kind of cowers over her. She's quite the looker here. Even after we assume that he was 17 and she was 26, 27 years of age, that photo quickly became toast as they pulled it down off her Instagram, and now you can no longer find that photo. And really, you can't find any photos of them together at all, despite the fact that now they're engaged to get married as of April 18th. This would mean that they started their relationship when he was 16 and she was likely 25.
Okay.
A critical component of the story, in addition to the relationship, were reports Filipowski had become estranged from his family over dating Hutchinson. It wasn't long before people claiming to be Kyle's older brother, Daniel, and his mom, Becky, were on Twitter explaining what exactly had happened and that it was no big deal and that they weren't estranged at all. They also said they tried to track down Jonathan and Giovanni to tell their side of the story, and Jonathan was having none of it. He said, I can do my own math. As we combine the accounts of the Filipowski family, they appear to be alleging that Caitlin Hutchinson began a relationship with Filipowski as a high schooler with the intent of grooming him and converting him to the Mormon religion. According to their allegations, that includes a long-term play to become engaged to him shortly after he left Duke. And with the NBA on the horizon, this would appear to have caused a friction between Filipowski and his family, with Kyle seemingly choosing his relationship with the hot Caitlin over his family. And again, according to their tweets and Giovanni's accounting of what NBA executives are saying, severing a relationship with this basketball player.
Wow. And she's converting him to being Mormon, and he's drafted by the Utah Jazz. Perfect.
Hey, that is true, right? I mean, what a great pick. He should be happy you went 32nd.
Maybe she engineered that behind the scenes somehow. I don't know.
You know, that's a great point. That's a great point. That's why you are who you are. I didn't even think of that. So when people say, when you marry a woman, you marry her family, right? I don't know if they say that about guys. When women say, when you marry him, you marry his family. I don't ever hear that as much as I hear when a guy marries a woman, he's marrying her family. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because her family is always a little crazier than his family is. At least in my case, it was. So again, whenever you are looking to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on a basketball player who, again, you can't go wrong with a 7-footer in the NBA, because you get 7-footers now. They don't play center. They play, they play F1s, F2s. And they can shoot 3-pointers. I mean, you look at, Dirk Nowitzki, you look at some of these other 7-footers, Joel Embiid. I mean, these guys are sinking 35-footers without a blink anymore.
Oh, yeah.
So they don't have to be underneath. It's not the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar 7-footers that we're used to seeing back in the 70s with the short shorts. What's your thoughts on, first of all, the age thing? It's always been interesting. I haven't a chance. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I had a chance to go out with a 25-year-old a couple months ago. And I'm 58. And my friends are like, are you crazy? And I was like, I'm 33 years older than she is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, I didn't say I wanted to marry her.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, there ain't a 58-year-old out there that wouldn't love to be seen somewhere, somehow, with a 25-year-old that looked as hot as this chick did. She was smoking hot. She said she used to listen to me when she was a teenager. I mean, she was saying some things like, I said, I don't need to hear that part. I don't need to hear that you peed in my pool when you were 6. I don't want to hear about those things. But yeah, at the age of 58, we're both adults at this point in time. And so and of course, after further, jurisdiction and thinking about what I thought, I better not, because obviously when you go out with someone, with the idea that you want to start a relationship with them and maybe start a family someday and get married to them. And certainly by, this, I'm not one of these app guys. I'm not going out just to go out. I'm going out to find someone that I want to fall in love with. I'll just be honest with you. Right. I'm not just going out to go out and have fun. I want to go out and meet somebody that I can have a relationship with. And so by going out with a 25-year-old, I would certainly be leading her astray. Even if she was interested in me, and the fact that she's 25 and I'm 58, just too far apart. I'm the half plus 7. I think you told me about the half plus 7 situation.
Oh
Where,
yeah, the bro code. Yeah,
yeah.
that's right.
So
Let's see, at 58, you'd be 29. 36 would be your
36, yeah.
maximum.
Having
Yeah.
58 is 29 plus 7 is 36. So if I could date a 36-year-old and it wouldn't be creepy or weird.
No, you'd be all good.
Yeah, despite the fact that being
The
22
universal bro
years.
code
Yeah.
always stands.
And it's amazing. It works almost every single time you try it too.
Yeah.
So,
But
the weird thing about a 16-year-old dating a 25-year-old or a 17-year-old, again, age is just a number unless you're a minor. Okay. And if
yes.
you ever see an 18 or a 19-year-old dating someone who's 23, 24, 25, at some point in that relationship, there had to be a minor included in the relationship with a major. I'm saying major person is 18 or older. In other words, you can date whoever you want at the age of 18, right? If you're 17, you're dating a 19-year-old, they're legal, you're not. You're dating a minor, which I guess according to some laws in some states, there's some things that you could do that possibly could put you in prison. I guess, even consensually. If you're 19 and you're dating a 17-year-old girl and you have sex with her, it could be rape, correct? So whenever you're talking about or obviously getting married, obviously there's going to be that. And so, I try to a wink and a nod and go, well, but if he's 16, do you have to start questioning some of his, not only his motives, but some of his life's choices, if you will, if he's going to go play in the NBA?
But that's so funny because it's such a different process now with all these teams, and there's so much money they're going to invest in these players that they dig and look for anomalies.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that kind of gets out there, and I wonder if there's even more behind the scenes that it's maybe like cult-like where she is like in total control of him, or there's some fears that, that she's so dominant in that relationship that it could affect his ability. I don't know, but that's how much they explore all of those questions, because they don't want to get stuck with a player and owe them millions of dollars if they're not, fully functional from a, we talk about mental approaches. And I can't imagine, to me, that age difference is significant, but it's not, absurd. When I think about, and I don't know if you realize this, Philippe Macron, the president of France, is in his 50s. His wife is in her 70s. He married her when he was like 25 years old, and she was 45. So, I mean, there's some extreme examples. They still elected this guy president of France, so I guess this guy could play basketball with a fiance that's 8 or 9 years older than him.
No, and just to be straight here, I was 18. I dated a 25-year-old.
But that's the ultimate.
But it was fantastic.
You learn the ropes.
I remember the blue dress she was wearing on our first date, and I just remember thinking to myself, "Wow, I can't believe I'm dating a woman 7 years older than I was shit, man. I was the real deal." Well, and since we're talking about huge age difference, this is something you want to talk about last week. Bill Belichick seems to be having something going on right now, does he not?
Yeah.
Would you like to share that story?
And Bill Belichick, who finally retired, was kind of asked, and they mutually parted ways after all the years of success with the Patriots. The last couple of years, let's be frank, has been absolutely disastrous because Belichick is such a control freak. His number one pupil, of course, was Nick Saban, who took on a lot of Belichick characteristics. But Belichick was so stubborn in the last couple of years, the Patriots have gone from the most glorified franchise to probably the worst in the league in recent years. But Belichick also interviewed for some other jobs. He's 72, almost 73 years old. It's come out now with, again, you can't really disguise anything. His girlfriend is 24 years old, Tony. The girl he's dating, the girl who's been seen, somehow somebody pirated like doorbell camera footage at his house. I don't know how you do that, but I guess you can hack anything of her coming in and out of his house at all hours of the day and night. Apparently even maybe partially living there. But that's a pretty big spread. You're 73, and let's face it, Tony, Bill Belichick is not going to win any GQ contest. He usually wears a hoodie. He's kind of a dumpy guy. He's got a terrible personality. The media hated dealing with him because it was a lot of one-word answers. He doesn't seem to have any kind of there's certainly no physical attraction, no compelling, exuberant personality. So you have to wonder in those circumstances, and it's been this way all throughout time. She's got to be on board for the fact that for years and years he made tens of millions of dollars. And I hate to be that crass, but I mean, what else could be her motivation in that relationship?
Her name is Jordan Hudson, and there are several sites here that actually say she could be 23 instead of 24. He, like you mentioned,
Wow.
is 72, just turned 72.
50 years
April.
spread. That's a lot.
Didn't he have a hoochie mama when he was married? Though when he was in New England, right? He was married, and didn't he have a woman that went city to city hotels? He had a mistress. And everyone knew about this mistress that he had for years, right? And he had a child with her, correct? While he was married to another woman.
I believe so, because I think he's been divorced for a long time.
Yeah, we've seen that happen several times. It didn't. I believe Rush Propst had something kind of going on, something like that.
Oh,
for
definitely.
A while. We had some hoochie mamas on the right. So obviously, when you're talking about coaches a little differently, and you're talking about a prospect here who hasn't made his first time in the NBA, but it is interesting, and you bring this up. Without writers, we used to have writers that got on airplanes and buses to get stories. That's how we got stories. You didn't have the internet. And so the only way you'd find out if anything was true or not is you'd go to their beat writer. And most of the time, the beat writer was in their back pocket because he traveled with the team. He was considered part of the team. He wasn't going to throw the team under the bus because he loved the team. He got to hang out in the LA Lakers locker room whenever and whoever he wanted to. So he sure as hell wasn't going to burn anybody for dating a 23-year-old or 24-year-old. Now everybody wants to get the story. And because they can go back and look at social media posts from Instagram and from Facebook and all these other things, it's not that hard to start doing some math and figure out. Remember Manti Te'o? Remember his whole thing, the Hawaiian who had the fake girlfriend? Do you remember we were on air doing that story. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? Couldn't figure out whether he should be drafted because of some girlfriend that he had in Notre Dame that he had never met before.
Yeah, well, it turned out the guy he was the girlfriend he was corresponding with was a guy.
It was a scam. Yeah, exactly. So
that was a ridiculous story, and all that didn't really break until he was drafted real high in the NFL. And not to suggest that his career with San Diego was bad because of that, but if you're gullible enough to fall into a serious relationship with somebody that doesn't exist, I don't think he could have been a first round draft choice. I think the league would have used that's a really good example you just came up with, because I think if that had come to light before the draft, people would have said, well, wait a minute, because he was getting a lot of sympathy, and he used that to actually enlarge his whole brand. Because he was talking about the heartbreak. Remember, he made up the fact that his girlfriend, his betrothed, that she had died tragically or something. He just kept milking the story along, and then it all broke that it was total BS. I think that would have cost him a draft position or two. And that's how in depth now teams are getting, trying to keep these kind of situations in hand. Now, I do want to say too, Tony, to be fair here, a spread again of 7 or 8 years. I know women may listen to this and say, well, it's perfectly okay for Bill Belichick to date a 24-year-old, but we're complaining that two people in their 20s are involved. And we don't know how old this woman is. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that if his draft stock really dropped because of that, I find that to be kind of puzzling, because the age difference isn't that great. But, the fact of the matter is, the heart wants what the heart wants. And for whatever weird reason that happens, but it makes some sense for a younger guy in his late 20s or in his late teens or early 20s to date a little bit older woman, because she is going to be in a position to almost mentor that individual, which in a lot of ways is kind of a good thing.
When AJ McCarron became engaged to Catherine Webb,
wow,
she is just,
You
I
mentioned
mean,
her name, and
knocked
that's why I
down.
say, wow.
I mean, knockdown, drag out, just absolutely gorgeous.
Brent
And
Musburger went crazy over her.
oh my gosh. And again, you know, there's
Brent
that,
was in his 70s at the
yeah,
time.
yeah, he was. And he would have thrown the ball with pops out the front yard too. There's those pictures of a girl that looks like Catherine Webb, and she's running naked down the beach, and it says somewhere some guy's tired of putting up with her shit. I mean, listen, just because you're beautiful doesn't mean that you're the total package, but she certainly seems to be that. I remember being on the air on Jocks with Alan Jay, and I'm sitting there going, this is before he got drafted. They had gotten engaged, and I'm like, please don't get married yet because your life is about ready to change. This is like going off to college from high school. You know, you usually don't go to the same college with your girlfriend unless you dated all the way through high school and you feel like this is my love mate, this is my soulmate. I'm going to stay with this person because you are still growing. You're still being mentored by individuals around you, and you're going to meet all these new and interesting people depending on where you're going to college at. And it's not to say you can't keep loving each other or try to date each other, but you really find out what each other's all about when you have to go to different cities and you try to do it long distance.
Yes.
And so I was like, AJ was going to be, you know, second or third round draft pick. It's probably going to be and he's had a hell of a career in the National Football League. He was the Jim Sorgi of our time because the guy never had to take a snap, pretty much zero snaps in the NFL, never got banged up, and made a paycheck for it and is tenured because of it. Now he's playing, of course, in the UFL and worked through his marriage. And as far as I know, has kids, and they're as happy as, you know, pigs and slop, which is great. You don't see that a lot with people who get married at that age.
That's right.
If you're the brass for the Utah Jazz, and you see, first of all, that he's estranged from his family, which is a little weird because he's a 20-year-old boy.
Yep.
And you're hearing the story that she's trying to point him Mormon. It sounds like she's got it planned out perfectly. And again, you look at her, it's not like she's not ugly. I mean, if this girl looked like she ran the 50-yard dash in a 40-yard gym, I'd say, wait a minute, something's wrong. Someone's slipping a Mickey in his drink, but she's a good looking gal. I mean, he's got it going both ways here. Do you think twice about honoring an individual, a 7-footer who averaged 16 and 8 last year at Duke in his last year because he dated a woman that's 8 years older than him?
Well, you know, I'm a little cynical in the fact that I always think that money has a big part of the starring role in a lot of situations. The oldest cliche in the book, but is the truest cliche, is follow the money. I'm sure it was not lost upon her, and I could be completely wrong, but so many of these situations, she may have seen this guy as, he's 7 foot. He's going to be a high NBA draft pick. This guy is a great investment in my future, to put it mildly.
Listen, if she knew when he was 16 that he was going to be going 32nd to the Utah Jazz, she needs to be an agent.
Oh, well, that's a good point, but there's just not that many 7-footers that are basketball stars, so you can put 2 and 2 together. I think you're probably right. That might not have been the motivation, but it might be the factor that's really maintaining the relationship is her knowledge that she's getting ready to cash in big time.
So I appreciate your words of wisdom on this, and I appreciate some other words of wisdom that you're going to give us here on ABC 3340 this weekend. Of course, it's the 4th of July weekend. We decided to do a best of show, which is great because there's a lot of people do shows for 12 years. And
if you missed the interviews with Paul Feinbaum and James Spann and Tim Brando, you're going to be able to hear those this weekend. And it's 3 of the best interviews we've done. So, but we will be back on TV coming up on July 13th, and we are basically declaring that pretty much the start of football season, because we're going to get really geared up and get you ready for the kickoff. Tony, it's less than 7 weeks away.
I know, and that's what I was going to say, because I've interviewed all 3 of these people. I've worked with Paul for 20 years. I know Tim extremely well. I work with James now because we do a show at ABC 3340, so I see him and he knows me, and we have the same agent. And so to have these guys come in and to get your words and your questions to these guys is something that I really look forward to, because I get all these questions from other sports figures, and I'm still kind of learning where you're bringing, because you are more insightful. You're not a one question answer kind of guy, which is great because it's more here, have a seat on my couch and let's get to know each other kind of interviewer, which I really, really love. That's why I love doing that show with you. So yeah, those 3 interviews are fantastic. You'll hear Paul Feinbaum unlike anything you've ever heard from Paul. I mean, he
so
talks,
personal, so relaxed.
talks
He was
about
great.
the legend, talks about the legend. He's really relaxed and he's not snarky. He's unbelievable. You got some stuff out of James Spann, which I thought was fantastic from early on in his career. And then Tim Brando, who's just Tim Brando, is always fantastic. I could talk
Tim's
to him for
great.
years. So, and we'll have those 3 guys on again on the show during the football season. So we'll look forward to that. But that show's going to be going on 10:30, 11 o'clock. It'll be jam-packed coming up this Saturday morning. Until then, Need to Know and Keefer and Kurre, exclusively right here on Tony Kurre Radio. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you, man.
Tony, it's always a lot of fun, and look forward to this every week because you never know where it's going to go. We never know who's going to be in the starting lineup, and we never know what's going to come up on Keefer and Kurre.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.